It's 7:04. Jennifer, are you taking notes?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. Just to bring us up to speed here, Margot's going to be late. Lisa Evan got her second shot today and she feels like crap, to quote her. So she will not be joining us today. So there, I neglected to send out minutes, but I don't know if I had them.
I sent them to everybody the night we did them. And then I sent them to, we didn't approve them though. We need to approve them before I can send them to Jeremy.
Right. And I didn't put it on the agenda, so we can't do that for tonight.
So I'll send all the outstanding minutes as soon as we're done.
Okay. Does everyone have our agenda, or would you like me to share my screen and I can pull it up so everybody can see it? Ta-da! Here we are. So Jennifer Hurley Wales is here visiting us today as a potential candidate or member of our committee. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
And I'm on like when I share, I don't see everybody. So, but here we are. So
I can tell you how to fix that if you'd like. If you go to the upper right where it says view, click side by side :gallery, and you'll see all of us. And then
there you are. Sorry. Yep, got it. I should know all this stuff by now. I host enough of these recitals and everything.
I know.
Online. So I thought we would start off by talking about our where we are for our next steps with our great branding project, so that we can keep moving this along. And so does someone want to tell, so Jennifer knows what we're doing here, talking about, give a little background?
I can, so this is the project to create a brochure that will be available in all of the retail and arts outlets in West Concord, and potentially also on some kind of signage, a "You Are Here" type signage, perhaps at the rail trail trailhead, though we haven't worked that out definitively. And that will link up to the website showing the various arts organizations and cultural offerings here in the district, as well as businesses and nature offerings, and all the various things going on here.
And we had a logo designed for it.
Correct.
And
I have a very basic question though. Yeah. Is this for, are you planning one event, or is it for a series of things?
This brochure is more sort of an ongoing type thing. So not promoting any specific event, but rather giving an overview of the geography of the cultural district, and then linking up to the website that should have the current events calendar.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So it's the branding for the cultural district as a whole.
Yeah, so I have a couple, well, I wrote a brief, which I can share with everybody. It's actually a couple pages long, but I did start digging into a bunch of these things, and I'm not sure what the appropriate timing and stuff, if now's the right time, but I'll just bring up a couple of things. One, it was interesting to me that this is called a branding project, because that's not, I come from marketing world, and this is not defined as a branding project with the company that we have contracted with. It is defined as a brochure and a map. So if it's a branding project, that's technically a completely separate project. Just so you guys are aware of that from a tech terminology perspective. I did want to bring up the question of brand. There is a logo, which I know was created. So, and I understand that was created by someone in the Concord area. And I'm curious, when that was being created, if there were any guidelines that went along with it for fonts and colors and things like that.
So I can hop in here. I use for our agenda purposes and kind of, I think we've been using branding project as the umbrella for all the work that we're doing to create the brand for the cultural district. And the map is one
Okay.
element of us putting that out there. So Harry Bartlett, he designed the
Okay.
logo for this, and we have it saved in our Google
Okay.
Drive with all the, and he's very accessible for us to get
Okay.
to. So, and he, you know, he was
Sure.
on our committee.
Was there any
until-
sort of like a color palette that he defined that goes beyond what's in the logo? Or specific fonts that were, you know, expected to be able to be used, or, you know, any things like that?
There wasn't much, no, it's mostly just the
No.
look. We did talk about, you know, how the tower of the Harvey Wheeler was stylized, and we kind of bandied about different fonts and color schemes, but that was more like just us giving our opinions on what looked nice, but there isn't a style guide or anything like that.
Okay. That is definitely helpful. I know we're going to be starting at some point when we are ready, the work with the company that is going to do the design of the map / brochure. There typically, when we would provide, let's say a set, so this brief that I put together, which I'm happy to share my screen at some point and just give you guys an overview of it. There are certain things that we would typically share with them. So like, either we would say, well, okay, we don't have a color palette. We really aren't, we're starting from scratch here. So you can help us figure that out. I don't know if that was ever discussed with her or not, with the person, I forget her name, but the person who owns that business. So that could be one way of approaching it. Typically, somebody would expect to like receive some kind of guidance on that. The good thing is we do have the logo that we'll be able to share. So she'll have that as a reference point. And then if there are any other, let's say, West Concord guidelines that we would want to say for a font perspective, that would bring kind of the character of who we are into things. Or again, we can say to her more from a tone perspective to say, you know, we want something that kind of fits what we're describing in our brief, but we also want something that's going to be, let's say, modern, or that brings our artistic nature kind of out, or, you know, other things like that.
Yep. I don't know of any of those fonts or anything like that. And Deb is very capable in using her judgment and providing us with examples of what she thinks would be work well with the font that we have in our logo already.
Okay, no, that's great.
Yeah.
That sounds good. And I guess my one other question is there a current list of all of the different businesses, and like Jennifer was mentioning when she was giving a description, you know, that there would be businesses, art, you know, locations, walking paths, like there's a long list of all these different elements that we would want to include in the map. I started putting that together, but I realized I don't know exactly what the list is or where to get it.
The list is, there's a list of, I think Margot Kimball, and I think I'm on this email too. There's a list of all the West Concord businesses.
Okay.
And most of them are in the cultural district. And I'm in the mill right now talking to you, and a lot of them are at the mill and or near Deborah's. They're all there. And so, so anyway, so I think that would be good. And like you've already intimated that you're going to do, giving her the new thing that Susan prepared and I've worked on for some time now.
Yep.
That would be really good, because that kind of is the gestalt. That's the big idea of this kind of hands-on, local,
Sure.
open-ended. We're not Framingham. We
No.
are cool. No, we're not.
Yeah.
And so this is just, I think they'll, and you see with all the new posts, all the new murals we've created, you get the kind of funky hands-on nature that's coming together.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
also it's only the first version of it. Maybe 3 years from now, we'll have a different version. It's okay.
Yeah.
We had talked about at the last meeting of, was there going to be a way that we were going to kind of curate who was going to be on the list for, because there are a lot of businesses in West Concord that you don't see or don't have storefronts or aren't artists in the mill. And so how are we going to accommodate those folks, or are we?
I was just thinking the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
my assumption was we were talking about businesses that actually had storefronts where people would be, or let's say, if artists are actually having a business, that they would be included, but I'm sure there's probably artists who don't want to be included. So I'm just guessing, but
Well, there are lots of artists. I mean, there are 19 artists in Artscape Bradford Mill, and then there are other artists across the way, behind Deborah's in the buildings there. So there's lots of artists, but sometimes you can just put Artscape on the mill, right, for all 19. So there's different ways of doing it. So I just think we can start with the business list that we have. I mean, the obvious ones would be the main, the Deborah's Natural Gourmet, the main stores. Just get the obvious ones first.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and that begs the question, are we gonna, I know in some, from a tourist perspective, when I've picked up these types of maps, I've noticed that different businesses have different amounts of visibility depending on sponsorships. Are we gonna do anything like that? Or are we gonna just kind of, everyone is equal, just cover everything?
Right.
That's a good question. We might want to act, I think those questions have all been answered before, but in towns like Maynard and in towns like Arlington, we could go, I could call the person in Maynard and say how they did it.
Mhm.
They have a map.
That's a
they've
good
got the
idea.
signage,
Yeah.
They've got the signage, they've got a map. And let me tell you, their signage, it suddenly made me think differently about Maynard. It was really weird
Yeah.
how impactful it was.
They're
Yeah,
doing a really nice job.
Yeah, they have a really nice,
In some ways, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do other people have already done it and just ask them what they did.
yeah.
So if you want, I'll reach out to Maynard if you want me to, because I think I know someone there.
I have her contact info if you want it, because I had been emailing with her about.
Or you can do it, Kate, if you prefer as the head of the committee. I don't mind you doing it, whatever you want.
No, I'm just saying if you want to, I can give it to you.
Okay, give it to me, that's fine.
Okay.
Whatever's fine. I think figuring out how they did it, because they're in a similar situation and they're really marketing it like mad. I mean, not only doing the t-shirts, but I think they also are raising money. I'm not quite sure what they're doing, but.
Okay. Would, so two things that would be really helpful for me, because I think these are things we're going to have to supply to our designer, because otherwise she's going to spend a crazy amount of time trying to figure this stuff out. Is the first thing is a list of any and all businesses and artists, et cetera, that and what their addresses are, so that then those can all be noted on an actual map that we will need to give her. Maybe in like I can create it in a PDF form or something like that, but if we don't provide that up front, so she's not having to do a ton of legwork, this is going to cost us 10 times what she's.
Oh yeah, we should do that ahead of time, definitely.
Right. So if somebody can
So-
provide that to me, just the information, I'm happy to make the draft map noting where things are that like we as a group can review first before we hand it over to her. I'll volunteer to do that. We've got to organize this in a way that so she can do that.
Ed, can you give me a complete list of the things that you want and I'll put them in the minutes and then we can assign different people to obtain that information or collect that information for you.
Yeah, so I would say basically, I mean, the things from an information perspective that I need is any, let's say, business or artist's name or any other entity that needs to be included on the map. I think I've already noted things like the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and stuff like that. But if there are specific I don't know if there would be any other like like monuments or anything like that we would want to call out, but if there are park names,
Like the
stuff
mural,
that.
for instance, the mural that's on the side of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, if there's art installations that we want to call out, we'll need to just note what those things are as a list. And then if there's like an address or just a location where those things might be, if it's not already clear, those would be really helpful for me. And then like I've actually found a couple of different maps that I think, and Google obviously Google Maps is a good place to start. It's just a simple, I can create a PDF from that. And then just start like drawing lines to like point to where things are. But yeah, I think that list would be a great place to start, because then I could note where these things are and share it back with everybody to just make sure we're not missing something.
And we have I think Anne or somebody gave you the other map, but we also have the map of the district.
Yeah, so I have I found on the Concord website, there are actually a whole bunch of maps. There's a really nice one that was made in 2010 that is a planning map for the district. It's out of date because some of the buildings now have been changed and were kind of redevelopment areas when that map was created. But from a stylistic perspective, it actually does a really nice job of defining where various different things are. So I did actually include a link for that in the brief I put together. And then I actually found a whole bunch of other maps for other communities. I didn't include Maynard because I don't actually like their map, but I think their approach is great. But there's maps for places that I found in different parts of the country. I included the Arts Arlington one that had been shared before, and a couple others, but I thought they would just give kind of a good rounding.
No, I think, to second what you just said, Ed, I think in a way, if we could just maybe at the next meeting, just look at, just share on a screen 5 different maps. Because maybe then we could say, by the way, this is not in stone, but just give some idea. It could be a really cool idea so that the person isn't completely starting from nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah, the more guidance we give her, the less we're going to spend.
And then
the more we can spend on making it beautiful rather than functional.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we could maybe do that next time, just look at 6 different maps on.
That'd be great.
So
I do have one other question, and if this is to be like can be done in a public way, like we can post this document on the Concord website so it falls in the public meetings process. Perfectly happy doing that because it's just a draft document, but it would be helpful to be able to share the document I'm working on, similarly to like the document that you and Susan Lodazenek have been working on. That document I know like had I think a group of different people kind of providing input to it, and this document that I'm working on right now would be helpful to just make sure that, again, I'm not missing anything.
Well, so why don't you share it on Google Docs like I did with Susan?
Okay, yeah, I can do that. And is
and that's really good, because then you know before a meeting we can all.
Here comes Marcia. Here she comes. I knew it.
We broke the law.
Yes.
If
Well,
it's-
no, you two did not, because
Right.
you're representing 2 different committees and
Yeah,
you're collaborating. But sharing it with the entire group is a violation of open meeting law.
right.
So Ed, if you wanted to put a draft up that people could then send their comments to you, as long as they don't send it to all, that is a great approach.
Okay, yeah, so if I put it up and then people can email me directly with comments.
And then can we share it at the meeting?
Absolutely share it at the meeting.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
discuss the various comments that came in, but you can't have a continuous building of a discussion, something that you say and that Jennifer responds to, that Margot then says no, and that has to happen in an open meeting.
Okay, so maybe what I can do is I can set it up. I'll share it with each person individually. Each of you can provide an email back to me. I'll consolidate everything in the best way I can, and then we can plan to share it along with, examples and things like that at the next meeting. And in the meantime, I can also, if I can get that larger list of those details, I can also put together the sample map that would give the designer what they need to start the process.
Great.
Awesome. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks.
I just want to speak up and say, I think we should make sure we identify both vehicle and bicycle parking opportunities in the district, because I think in some cases people don't know where the parking is in West Concord, and there's plenty of it. So we should definitely highlight that,
Yeah.
or at least label it with a P.
Great.
Cool. Hi, Margot.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Thanks for joining.
Glad I got here.
Yeah. Do we want to talk right now about the well, what is the timing for this? Do we have a time that we're trying to get this done?
For the brochure?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
The ideal would be to have it done by the end of September.
Yeah.
Preferably the end of July, but as long the contract has not yet been finalized. There's some questions still about sign-offs and everything. And I need to work with my staff to get that purchase order completed,
Okay.
which I will be doing tomorrow. But I've had some other things that I've had to address yesterday and today. So that's been a little bit delayed, but we're hopeful is to get it this before the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
That is so exciting. That's fantastic.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. Thanks. Thank everybody. All the feedback's awesome. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for taking this on. So in our, so to recap then, Jennifer Montbach is gonna write up the wish list and things so that it'll go into the minutes of what to make sure what we have to get Ed and what we've talked about here, what our next steps are.
Yeah, should we
And-
assign each item now?
Yeah.
So businesses and addresses. Anne, can you do that since you're tied into the business council?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to.
Okay, and then artists, maybe that feels like a Margot thing.
Well,
Okay.
I could do Artscape. I don't think in Artscape, I don't think we want 19 artists listed, but just we can list Artscape.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, everybody. I'm looking.
But are there are other artists?
But there are other artists there
Studios.
too that are there's, the photography business here. There are other artists that I can also name as well. And I can send that. Do you want me to send that to Ed?
That'd be great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so I will
Yeah.
send Ed the list of the 50 people on the business email, and I'll also send him the list for the Bradford Mill artists.
Okay, I can brainstorm non-business landmarks like the rail trail and the mural and parking.
I think the Junction Park and where that actual junction is kind of pretty interesting. It definitely has
Oh, yeah, definitely.
that junction. And what's weird is I think it was actually moved from where it really was.
Okay. Is there anything else on the list?
So I have to admit, I'm only half understanding. You're talking about things that would go on a map?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure when we provide the final list and details to the person who's actually going to design the map, that they
Yeah.
have everything
Yeah.
thought through ahead of time. So their job is to design it, not have to think about all this stuff.
Right, right. So Anne, maybe we could, you and I could talk at
I
some
think we
point.
could talk and let's
Yeah.
let's do it and let's brainstorm. So email me, and also
Perfect.
I'll help you with the art thing in May. I didn't respond to your email because it went to my junk mail again.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I will help you with the thing in May, so you're not alone. Okay.
Great. Good. The next thing on our agenda is to outline, I wanted us to start thinking about what our committee goals are for the coming year. Because I guess our official year starts in June. Is that right, Marcia? However we want to define it.
Well, that's when you get
Yeah.
new members and when people go off. So yes, that works best.
Yeah. Okay. And you had let me know that the town budgeting or your budget goes in the fall.
That is correct.
So, and that your budgeting process, so with our planning, we need to this year provide Marcia, with a pretty concrete budget, of how we want to fund our plan or what we need funding for the year so that she can submit it to the town.
Great.
So we have a new town. What is he?
Manager.
Manager, yeah. And his process is a little different than the previous town manager. So that's why I wanted us to start thinking about what are the couple major things that we want to try and start moving along this year, in addition to one of them being our branding project. So I had put together a list of suggestions, but I welcome everybody to start chiming in.
All right, well, I'm volunteering for Porch Fest, which will be in September, TBA, pending pandemic and vaccines and Governor Baker and all that jazz. And I think our budget that we could use from Marcia, what did we spend last year, Marcia? Maybe $1,000?
Oh, if
Not
that-
even.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
small,
I'd
but
be,
yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I could put 1,000 in.
Yeah.
As a sort of tentative budget. The branding project would be spring, summer, and Ed will be the point person, and that budget will be covered by, or not branding project, for sure. Thank you, Ed, for reining us in on.
Yeah. So what I was suggesting is that we look at what major or what areas we want to do, like your Porch Fest, right? And then plan for them. And then out of that planning, we will have our budget for Marcia to submit. So I just wanted to bring it up that because the town process has changed, that we need to do things just a little bit differently. So I had
Sure.
put up just major areas for us to think about. And then what would we do, or what would we maybe do with these areas? So the one that Jen, you were talking about right now, first was, we talked about the branding, wayfinding and signage as being potentially one of the areas, and the map that we were just talking about is one of them. We had received that cultural council, Mass Cultural Council grant money to fund a number of these items that are on it, but we haven't done necessarily everything with them yet. So I was thinking that this is, as we've had, this is still one of our core goal areas that over the next couple months we can flesh out and start moving forward on for this year. Yep.
You've got
Oh,
the 7,500 that came from the Mass Cultural Council is for the brochure and all the things that go along with that in terms of. And then Margot has already allocated everything that was done for prior years for the public art, the two graphics, getting the one up on Reasons to be Cheerful, and then finalizing the Celebrating Agriculture for the Saltbox Kitchen. And I think those are the two projects that we have fully funded. There is no funding for anything else yet.
Right.
So if that's a goal, we need to identify how much we're going to need for that.
So have we paid for our signs? Are we going to get cultural district signs like Maynard has?
We have a contract with Billy Crosby. He has not yet put together the map showing where they're going to go so that I can take that to the select board. And he's come up with several concepts that have been, I think this group has reviewed.
I've been talking about this for over a year, Marcia.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Billy hasn't done anything for a year.
Well-
So
Do we have money for that, or do we not have money for it?
we have a contract with him that
Okay.
we haven't paid him for anything yet.
Got
Okay.
it. Can I just ask a quick question, just since we are talking about like a lot of things all at once, but with those signs and the fact that we're creating this map and that we're talking about branding and a lot of other things, would it be possible for somebody to share with me what those sign concepts look like? It would just be great if we can make all of this stuff come together as one cohesive brand.
Right.
The thing is the signs that we got from the state and
Yeah.
what we're having Billy take those colors that the state has used and reinterpret it for West Concord Junction is not necessarily what this group might want.
Okay.
So, but I'm happy to share that. And I do
Yeah.
have the signs that the Mass Cultural Council provided to the community. But I don't think that they're what you want to have installed. So that's,
Okay.
So you
Okay,
already
just-
have the existing signs?
It's understand.
You have the signs?
I'm sorry?
You have the signs?
Yeah.
But they're just not up because they're not right. Is that the issue?
My understanding is this group wanted it to be specific to West Concord Junction, that you did not want the generic
Sounds-
community sign for the cultural
Yeah,
district.
because Maynard signs are very specific to Maynard.
Yeah.
Right.
So
They
we
have a
ended up,
brand.
and Harry Bartlett made a logo. That hasn't actually been used yet, though. Is that right?
Correct.
See, I'd love for Ed to see the logo that Harry made.
Yeah,
that-
I've seen his logo. I definitely, I have that. But I'm just wondering more broadly, like, it sounds like, I'm sorry, I forget the guy's name. The sign gentleman has been
Billy.
Billy.
Billy
Crosby.
Crosby.
Billy Crosby has put together some ideas of what signs could look like.
Yeah, and the signs that I was in on those meetings and the signs that the concepts that he provided are riffs off of the state templates that we were
see.
given that we could use.
I see.
So these cultural gateway signs aren't, they're not going to be our logo and what we wanted. It's just that those are more of the state cultural district, and ours
Got it.
we're trying to make them look more like West Concord.
I see. Okay. I think, so I totally get we've done these. I've mentioned to you guys, I'm on the board of directors of the Freedom Trail in Boston, and
Yep.
we have signs all around Boston that are designed very specifically to have, I think, more the kind of idea that they look very different than I think what West Concord would want, but it's very specific to that entity and that brand. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great though, because we've been talking about this for over a year. And
Yeah.
because we really are getting with Ed, we're really getting into branding. If we kind of could see the signs, where are we now? I mean, my studio is next to Billy, so I could actually encourage him. And I'm sure he'd love to get it done. So if we could just kind of like bring this all together, I think now's the time to do it.
It's not us that's holding this up. It's Billy, if I'm correct.
but
Like
we
he's
haven't seen
like
it.
fallen off the earth, and we haven't heard from him. I mean, we've been asking Billy to do this, and he hasn't gotten it done.
Well, I can ask
So-
him. He knows me pretty well because we're almost roommates. So I can ask him what's going on. And I think it'd be good though for Ed. Ed hasn't seen them and I've never seen them. It'd be good if we
Yeah.
could see them.
Sure.
It's getting very confusing. We're doing the map, we're doing the branding, and a couple of us have no idea what the signs look like.
Well, we brought concepts into our committee meetings like last winter before we went into shutdown.
Okay, well, I don't remember it.
Yeah, no, because I remember us presenting those. This is literally is a Billy Crosby issue.
Okay, I can ask,
Why?
I could even go, I mean, I could go and say, listen, Billy, show me the signs. Let me take pictures of them. And I can do that tomorrow.
Okay,
I mean, I can, so at least Ed knows what we're
but
doing.
let Marcia's been the point person with,
Billy doesn't have any signs made. He has concepts, graphics that they've been generating
Okay,
and locations. So that's what Anne would be looking for from Billy.
Well,
yeah,
I could get that from Billy, because I think what happened too is it kind of fell by the wayside too, because we had a change in chairs, with.
no, it hasn't fallen by the wayside. It is literally, have been waiting on,
Billy. Well, so I
on
can go to
Billy.
Billy, I can go to Billy tomorrow. I know Billy pretty well, kind of, sort of. And I've only been next to him for 10 years. And so I can tell him, listen, we just want to see something. It doesn't have to be perfect. Can we just see it? And then am I allowed to send an email with it if nobody responds, Marcia?
You can send emails to everyone, but they should not
Respond.
They don't need to comment back to you. You don't have
No comment. We can respond. So we all have a sense of what we're doing, because I think we want to know, because what I've noticed with Maynard is their sign drives all their designs.
right. Well, but the sign probably went, like, it's not just the sign. They went through a branding process and came up with a brand for Maynard, for their district. They have a logo and a tagline. That their tagline is
Right.
about how it's like the best, most walkable town in New England or Massachusetts or something like that. So, you know, they've spent their time to develop a brand, and they're continuing to figure out how that expands, just based on what I'm seeing. Can I ask another just quick question? There could be an opportunity for us to, you know, I don't want to not work with the person who's developing the map for us. I think we should continue to move forward with that. But something that could help somebody like Billy, there are a lot of very talented college students out there. I went to BU, and BU actually has an ad agency that is student run, that produces stuff for nonprofits for free, basically, and the students get grades for it. But when I was there, we produced a brochure for a business, and I know they've continued that process. But I could look into seeing if we could find some design and writing students who basically would be doing something like this to build their own portfolios so that they can get future jobs and still get very professional work for us. I don't know if that would be of any interest to anybody.
Marcia, is that something that we can do?
Absolutely.
Okay. We don't need an RFP or any of that for this.
Not if it's a volunteer or a student run, and we might even be able to pay for supplies. As long as we don't have a contract of any kind, and as long as we keep it under $1,000, we're good.
Yeah, they don't take any money for it. So if there were an out-of-pocket cost, like to produce something, that obviously would need to be covered, but otherwise it's not no cost.
So specifically, Ed, what are you thinking about sending using them or sending them their way?
I'd have to reach out to them and find out, availability. But for example, if there were students either through that ad agency process, or if there were students that were interested in, in a project, set something up with them to have them help define the brand, and they could help us. So it's taking what Harry Bartlett had already put together. I hope I'm getting his name right. And then working from that, they could help us, for example, define colors or fonts. Those things might also come sooner because we're working with the designer who's going to do the brochure, so they could maybe build on whatever she does. I'm just saying it would be nice to be able to have somebody that we could tap into, and that I'm very quickly realizing, budget's an issue. So this could be a nice solution, and it would give somebody young or, a group of people who are young an opportunity to, grow their career at the same time.
Great.
It'd be cool if we could get the signs and the new brochure, as something that appear by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be totally cool, guys?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
I have a question about the signs. Do the signs have to use what Mass Cultural Council has given us, or are we able to also use a blank slate approach if we come up with a branding scheme that we like and that we think is more suitable for West Concord?
We have to use Mass Cultural Council's concept. So because the cultural district is a child of the Mass Cultural Council.
Hmm.
And so they're giving us money, they're providing these things to us. We can't go off in a different direction, which is why we're using the same color palette and the same size signage as what we receive from Mass Cultural Council.
Got it. And so if
Mhm.
Maynard has done something that's different, it's because they're using the MCC signs and then they've, done something else on their own in addition to that. Okay.
Yes. Like that big sign with the
Yeah,
granite
yeah.
posts, that's their own, that's not a cultural district sign.
Got it. Okay.
That's their own thing that they did. So I think we're all in a, if I'm not mistaken, that one of our major goals for this year will be to continue on with our branding and wayfinding and signage project.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool because I think a lot of people still don't know there is a cultural district here. And that's not the case in
Mhm.
Arlington or Maynard. And I think it's because of the signage and the
Okay.
maps. I think that's what makes it.
So Jennifer Montenbach had also mentioned, I have it as number 3 on this list, are events for this coming year. And I'm hoping that we can come to agreement working with, which would be number 2, establishing our annual events, or an annual event that we as the cultural district sponsor. And then there will be the other events that we work in collaboration with the other groups within the community, the business district, that we contribute to or work on. Because obviously, number 2 talks about facilitation and collaboration, and us doing more of that. But I also am not sure that we have to be the leaders for all of these events. And so I'd like to hear from everybody about that.
Kate, I think that was good to clarify that, because it has gotten a little confused at times. Like, the business group is creating these events and we want to collaborate with them, but we can do other things as well.
Yeah.
And so the Porch Fest, for example, that's a cultural committee thing. That's and the businesses in that case can jump aboard and add to that if they want. And then something like, I think that in West Concord Center, the most established thing is West Concord Day, which is basically determined by Deborah Stark as far as timing goes. And it seems like that's one that, the businesses are already doing and we can contribute to it. But I don't think, but we're not sponsoring that one.
And this isn't to say that tonight we pick our events, but it is, but that this is something that that we could address this year as our goals and work on that.
Well, I think to support what Margot said, I think Discover West Concord Day is part of our uniqueness and we should continue to support that. I also think it happens in the fall, and that's when I think it's maybe COVID will be a little bit more muted. So
Yeah.
we can think about.
And as Margot had said, that's an event that's kind of the businesses take more of the lead on that one, and we collaborate with them. Whereas on the Porch Fest, we lead the Porch Fest efforts, and then collaborate with bringing the businesses in to help with that. But I think it would be terrific for the community and for us if we can come up with a couple events that become our annual events that people can know to come and visit West Concord at that time and get the community involved. So that's what I'm thinking. Does anyone have anything else?
Well, I have another thing to say. So I mean, if we can assume that the fall events are kind of, we've sort of have the basic things, the Porch Fest and West Concord Day. In the spring, it's the business group has been putting more, they've been coordinating more than I've ever seen them do
Mhm.
around this May event, the 19th to the 22nd. And that you know, we, and also, well, you know, the cultural, you know, we've been getting, the cultural groups have been getting more involved in that too. It's been really nice to see the businesses and the rest of us like coordinating so much. I think that, you know, from what I hear from the businesses, it's a big stretch for them to do even two things, you know, West Concord Day and this, like they would definitely never, I don't think they would ever have it in them to do two more regular things, but they want to have a regular spring thing too. So I guess what I'm wondering is, do we want this this spring event to be the beginning of a yearly spring event that our committee sponsors, or maybe it's very much both the businesses and the cultural committee
I have a
doing it
question
going
here.
forward.
Margot, maybe you can clarify this. Is this thing coming up in May at all related to the Mass Cultural Council Art Week that we did the last couple of years, which
No,
I'm
and
assuming is off this year?
Yeah, that was one of the things that was sort of in my head about this. It's not, as far as I know, Art Week's not happening.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when the timing on this one, they, you know, came to the timing on it because they wanted the weather to be as warm as possible, but before people get distracted by um Memorial, is it Memorial? Yeah, Memorial Day and then
Mhm.
summer stuff. So that's why it ended up being, it's the weekend before Memorial Day.
But maybe
But-
for next year, because hopefully
Yeah.
by then Art Week will be back.
Right, in
And-
that case, it would have to be one or the other, because certainly I don't think we want to do a big thing and then a week later, the
Mhm.
businesses do a big thing. That would
Right.
be great.
What are you calling this business thing? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and I'm sorry too, that we haven't actually.
Well, we
told
have
them.
it on our agenda for you to discuss next.
This Thursday, oh, yeah.
So we can talk about that. So does
Okay.
any else have any other goals? The last thing that I put was to have us get together with the other organizations within the community, being the, you can see on my list, coordination between district cultural focused organizations and facilities, including the library and artist groups, the rec departments and the business groups, so that we can put our calendars together and talk more about how we can collaborate with each other, so that if the library has an event going on, how can some of us that have organizations within the district also do something with them, so we can have more synergy and collaboration within the district. And so this would be our goal, then would be to put together the framework for this process to happen.
That sounds really smart, Kate, because I think part of a cultural district is not to have arts just isolated, but we're supposed to be supporting the entrepreneurship of the unique, you know, crafts, unique work of individuals here. So the more we can collaborate,
Yep.
I think is really good. We're already doing it with Deborah's Discover West Concord Day. Now we can collaborate with others, and maybe in May every year, whatever. But I think the more, it shouldn't be just one-off. It should be collaborating.
And so if we could get together with them, pick a date, and have a committee representative and people representatives from each of these groups get together, talk about when do they do their planning for the years, what events do they already have planned? Is there something, for example, with Art Week or the West Concord Day, you know, so that we can start planning this stuff
So-
way out.
You know, I think this might be what Beth Williams is doing, or, you know, working towards doing. It may be just a matter of coordinating with Beth as much as anything.
That makes sense.
Which would be
That's her
great.
job. Yeah, that's her
That'd be awesome.
job. Yeah, so we should coordinate with her. That's brilliant.
But she's doing, this is exactly the kind of thing she seems to be doing, I think. Am I right, Marcia? Doesn't that
She's
seem right?
bringing people together. She has something called a tourism huddle, which is a once a month event, and where all sorts of groups they come, they talk about what's going on, what's happening, and where they might coordinate. And so she is able to help with that and get the communication going. And so she's
Never heard of
on the
this.
forum.
Yeah, I just ended up there. It was just yesterday, right? I saw you there, Marcia. I kind of stumbled across it. It was great. It was
I've
great.
never heard of it. I would have had the school involved with it.
It's just started since maybe in the last 6-8 months. It's a brand new thing.
So I should talk to Beth
Beth
about it.
Beth
Williams.
Williams.
Yep.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we should do that. We should be part of the tourism huddle.
yeah.
Okay. The last thing I put on there, just to put it in, was public art. But I'd love everyone else's ideas of just the top line for goal areas that we might want to investigate or start working on for this year.
Well, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the Junction Village Cultural Open Space Task Force is meeting.
Uh-huh.
They meet I want to say either the third or fourth Thursday at 5 o'clock. And they're just getting started on their planning for that space, but they're talking about what kind of public art could go there. And Stuart, I'm not going to remember his last name, Akita,
Akita or something?
Akita, I think it is, from
From the Umbrella. Yeah.
is talking about commissioning some new doors for the Bruce Fruman Rail Trail for their Go Outdoors program. The doors that were there this past year are going to be going into other communities. And so we're going to get some new doors for West Concord. And he was thinking about reaching out to Concord artists to participate in that. So those are two projects that I'm aware of being in discussion.
Okay. Great. So at the next meeting, we can talk about other areas, goal areas, if anyone thinks about them between now and then. But we could start fleshing these out and planning around them for the coming years. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this? Okay, so next we have Margot. I had put you down to talk about the May 19th through 22nd.
Okay. Yeah, so we already discussed it a little bit here. Let's see. There'll be a meeting on Thursday to continue planning, Thursday at 7 on Zoom. And any of you are welcome to go to that.
Can you give me a more of an overview, Margot?
Yeah.
I'm
so-
sorry, I'm a little behind on what this is.
Okay, sure. This is so the businesses wanted to do some kind of a spring event to encourage people back into the town center, and even, you know, cautiously a little bit into the stores, and chose the 4 days, you know, wanting it to sort of be spread out, partly for COVID reasons. So May 19th through 22nd. And as I was saying, they're also really interested in having just a regular yearly thing that people can kind of get used to. So the different things that are planned. One is a scavenger hunt, because people have really enjoyed scavenger hunts, and it's and they want to do something that kind of gets people into the stores for that. They're also really eager to have artists involved. So I think Kate I think Kate and Lisa both happen to have things going on during that period, right? Kate?
Lisa has
Okay.
a performance, so she is going to send us the links for that. I
Yeah.
sent her the link to the Google Doc for that. And
Okay.
then we have recitals that weekend, but I have secured the courtyard in front of 101 Com Ave, where Bill Scheid's office, accounting office is, and where Reflections
Uh-huh.
is. So that for CCM, not only for CCM, but so that we can have students performing and bands perform there. And then if there are other groups, we can do that also, so that we can have music down there too. So
Great.
you know where that is, across from Reasons?
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice little spot for
Mhm.
something like that. So for me, I have a couple of big things for that. And one is, I mean, the art room, I want to have some activities, outdoor activities that people can participate in, just arts and crafts kind of things, probably having to do with making flowers, because that's sort of a theme for this, is flowers and spring. But the other very exciting thing is the farm mural going up. I think, gosh, I have such bad memory. We already talked about this? Did we already have a meeting since I got like confirmed that it's
I
going
don't
on
think you've
Saltbox Kitchen?
shared with everybody where it's gonna go up.
Okay,
You
so
did with the business meeting.
good news is that John Boynton Sr. and Ben Elliott, they're both very, very positive and excited about having it go up on the side of Saltbox Kitchen facing New Leaf. So it's great. And my goal is to have it go up like on the 19th, at the beginning of this period. And I think we're on target. I could tell you many funny stories about keeping Billy Crosby going on this, including, persuading my daughter to just like work for him, getting Marcia to cover like a little bit more of what Billy needs to do. And then it still wasn't being done. So I'm like, well, my daughter's at home and she needs something to, and like, Iris, you'd be good at this. So, I mean, it's like a constant, it's just incredible. Anyway, the thing is looking beautiful and I'm really excited about it. I know I'm not supposed to go on too long about the farm mural, but that's like so much on my mind. Just to mention that I'm still trying to get 3 sponsors, and I've got the Boynton family. I haven't heard back from Middlesex Bank. I've applied a grant for Middlesex Bank.
Mm.
And the third one, I'm very disappointed and sorry to say that the Welch's company is not going to sponsor it.
Hmm.
Very sad.
What's
So
what's
I'm going
the
to
what's the financial?
paint out Ephraim Bull and the grape leaves. They're gone. Anyway, if anybody has an idea for a third sponsor,
How much
I
do you
would love
need
to
to
go.
raise?
Well, that would be that it's $1,000. So these 3 sponsors who get their name sort of more prominently displayed on the plaque and mentioned, yeah, I'm asking for $1,000 from one more
So it's $1,000 each.
each. Yeah, yeah. So that's, and then what else? So but
Did you
that event that weekend,
Did
what
you talk
else?
about the artists having their art in the windows?
Yeah, okay, so there's that. So the businesses were really, they really want to do like something like an art walk. So I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I was a little nervous because I got a lot going on, but I, it would be cool. I mean, it'd be great. And I mean, I think they'd be interested in that being a regular yearly thing, and how lovely that would be for us as well. So I have reached out to Well, Dory Carlin, the new librarian at Fowler is wonderful. She's gotten involved and she made a Google, what do you call it? A Google form of some
Mhm.
kind that you send out. And some of you, I think, have seen that maybe, where businesses, anyone can sign up to say in what way you want to be involved in this, in that weekend, including do you want to display an artist's work at your place? And there's a lot of interest. And then I sent out a call. I sent out an email to maybe 40 different artists that I know of in the West Concord area. And I've gotten at least a dozen. You know, there's like a lot of people are really interested in this.
Mhm.
So I'm getting more and more nervous thinking, oh my gosh, what have I taken on now? And I reached out to Stuart, again, Stuart over at the Umbrella, and asked him how the umbrellas, because I know the Umbrella has done this kind of thing. And and he was in fact involved in the winter, just this past winter, I guess,
Mhm.
they had a kind of an art walk in Concord Center. They had what do you say? They matched artists with businesses and restaurants. And he said they had maybe, I think he said maybe 20.
And they were
Um,
putting their art for sale there too, right?
yes, and I mean that would be true for us, I would think, you know, if artists want to sell it. But and he said the way they did that was the Umbrella mainly acted as a you know, matchmaker. And then the businesses and the artists took it from there in terms of, you know, what goes up and hanging it and stuff. So that's nice from the point of view of, you know, whoever, I hope Anne's gonna help me work with me on this one. So, you know, so we don't have to because I do not want to get involved in hanging other people's stuff for sure. And then I've talked to I've gotten some feedback from different people about how that all went. Some people were super happy about the whole thing and they sold works and they had a nice relationship with the business and the artist. Others were less happy. A couple of artists had things got damaged. So they're like, never again. So that's, I don't know. I think certainly you have to warn people that this is something that can happen.
Do you
Yeah.
think if ours are just going to be going in their windows, then maybe that won't be
Well,
as much of
that
an
helps
issue?
because in both cases, the damaged work was sort of more towards the middle of
Mhm.
yeah, the store, or in one case, a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know that things would necessarily just be in the windows, because isn't the idea here that people will actually be going in places?
I think that was the scavenger hunt piece of it, and the windows, the art work was going to go into the windows, and then maybe inside their information would be inside, in addition to the
Okay.
signage about the artists in the windows. Because with the art walk, the thought was that the art would pull everybody down and or through the neighborhoods so that
Okay.
they would see everything, and then maybe also go into the businesses and frequent the businesses while they were doing that.
Okay. Well, that would certainly simplify the thing
Mhm.
if we're making that part of the criteria that it's a window thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I had thought it. They had talked about it at the meeting, and
Okay.
then Margaret and as part of this business side of things, had talked a little bit about, you know, somebody didn't like that it was so artsy. You know, they
You know,
wanted it just to be businesses.
Kate, I think you misinterpreted Helen.
No,
Really?
she was like this, because I want, and it came up because I had suggested one of the names be the West Concord or Spring into West Concord Art Walk. And
Okay.
they said, well, that's sounding too artsy, and this is a
Oh,
business event.
oh,
And
okay.
I was kind of like, well, that's what we're supposed to be doing with you
Yeah.
all, is participating in this.
Well,
And so
that's funny. Well, I remember I wasn't really happy about that name either, because when it just sounded like something that I would feel personally responsible for making happen if it was an art walk. I was like, oh my God.
It is an interesting just comment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting back to, when we think about a brand and we think about what we represent, when people hear something like art walk, they may not be thinking about the value of all the people that are going to come walking along and actually go to their businesses, because they're not just there necessarily to see the art, but it is obviously a one-sided name, so we
Yeah.
can keep thinking about different things, but yeah, good thing to think about as we think about that.
Well, and they had put together a poll for the name, and I don't recall them. Maybe Margot, do you recall what they are?
We haven't decided it yet.
Yeah.
The poll itself, it's all over the map. It's like, if 12 people have answered it, I think we have 12 different names. I don't know what but hopefully we'll have more by this Thursday. And we'll make a decision on that.
I was hoping that I was suggesting that somehow, because we are the West Concord Junction Cultural District, that Junction be in the name for this thing, spring into the West Concord Junction or something like that. And then there was a lot about, well, we're the village. And I said, yes, we are, but we're also the Junction Cultural District. And that's the name they gave us, or that's, and so then there's, how much are we gonna use the junction in our name is one of my questions for everybody. Like, is this something I should follow my sword for in these meetings, or?
That came up, it's a really important point, because I was very squeamish about that originally as well. And then when you study the history of it, and then when you talk with the cultural district people, they're really big on it.
Yeah.
Because it's the junction that made us exist. And if the railroad weren't joining here, and it's really interesting too, it gets into caste and classism. It's the poor working class that were on this side of Concord. The wealthy white people were on the other side.
Yeah.
You get this in towns. And so
oh my gosh, I find this topic really painful.
But it is.
I mean, we can talk about it if you want. I very strongly feel otherwise, but I also don't.
But the junction
like
was for the working class people, and the junction was possible because of the train line coming together.
Well, do we want to have this discussion? Because I could go on about why I find it really difficult having that.
We can have this discussion
another time, but
at another time, but I wanted to bring it up because it was something that came up in this meeting. And as the representative of one of the representatives of the cultural district at it, in addition to being CCM, that's what we're called. And so what I want to know is as a group going forward, how are we going to address this?
Okay, does anybody else have the experience of any time that you explain about, okay, I'm on the West Concord Junction Cultural District Committee, having to explain that and apologize for how long it is? Like,
why?
Does it not bother anybody else? Because if it doesn't, then I'm just really
I guess what would be the alternative? If you replace the name Junction with a different word, it's just as long.
No, well, why is there even the word? I mean, we don't need a word in there. It's West Concord.
But I think
it's West Concord Cultural District.
No, because we came about because of the junction.
Became about because of the junction, and it's really important. Americans are famous for whitewashing their history.
Right.
And I would argue that we need to bring the junction back. We were called the junction. I'm in a room that was made for working class people. We were the junction. And this is the place a lot of immigrants could come work, actually. This is where all the Irish came. So the junction is really important. And I understand where you're coming from a little bit, Margot. I was initially squeamish. What's the junction? I didn't know anything about it. But then I'm realizing when you read the history, oh my gosh, it's really important.
Right. If other people feel that way, that's fine. I'll just keep this to my,
It is a long name. I agree with you. It is, even our initials are this long, I mean, it is a long name, but it is the name of our district. And so I wanted to get a sense of how we should move forward with this and what people think. Marcia.
I'll just, again, throw this out there just on the whole branding thing. Why don't we give it a chance and take the opportunity to think about how the brand can bring it to life? Because like, I know I'm new here, but having worked for over my career in a lot of both historical as well as cultural places around the country, I think this does have a major impact on how people think about our town. And frankly, well, Susan and I have been having a lot of conversations about a lot of the things that not just Concord, but like other parts of Massachusetts and our country are going through right now. But the opportunity to actually make this an important positive for us is actually a great thing. And it's something that I think also the fact that Concord is trying to be a more diverse place to embrace that diversity in history and how it became that way is a huge benefit.
I really second that. And I think that I really do second that. And I think that it's interesting too. It's important on the rail trail. When you go on the Bruce Freeman rail trail, the new signs are all about the junction. So we want the new signs which talk about the railroad junction. Then it all makes more coherent sense. It's bringing history alive, right?
Could I
The working class that we often never talked about.
If we do that, it seems like the logo, the image that we're using should have a railroad in it, or the depot or railroad tracks or something, rather than the tower, the clock
Harvey
tower
Wheeler.
of the Harvey Wheeler building.
Yeah.
But maybe this is talking out of turn. I'm sorry, we already.
No, so I don't think you're talking out of turn at all. I actually asked Susan that yesterday. I was like, so how did this come about? But the Harvey Wheeler building, I don't know what the history is and how that got decided as what the logo was going to be, but it was surprising to me that was just because it was like the tallest landmark was the deciding thing on a logo. But I know that work was already done, so I don't want to like stick my foot in that. But
in my opinion, if we're keeping junction, then we're simplifying this, and I'm not a big fan of the logo. I'm sorry.
So why don't we, because we still have a couple other items to finish, but I think this is a really good point. No, Margot, it's perfect. I mean, it's a really good point. If we're called the junction, why the heck is the Harvey Wheeler Tower our identifier?
Maybe it should be the junction. That little circular junction.
Well, and it is, I thought that was gonna be part of the cultural district signs, right, Marcia? Wasn't the junction?
It's a vista of West Concord that includes the depot, it includes the clock tower, it includes the Bradford Mill smokestack. So it's what West Concord, all the different little icons you might associate with West Concord. I'm sorry, I'm so amused. They didn't. It was a town meeting action in the 1920s that changed the name to West Concord. Before that, it was the junction. So
it was always the junction, but there was always this thing of burying working class history because we were embarrassed by it. But now it's time to revive that.
So is this something that we want to address at our next meeting, whether or not we stick with this logo?
I absolutely concur with Margot. I don't love the logo, and honestly, it was done kind of quick and dirty. We didn't really have a process of connecting it to the larger branding idea.
I think it's a really good idea.
The fact that there's no style guide is kind of indicative of how it came about.
Well, we haven't used it.
Right.
We haven't used it, and we didn't spend buku anything to have it done.
So
right?
I think it's appropriate to reconsider it now that we're really looking at branding and signage and everything all at once, and the map. I think we definitely should reconsider it. And now we're also really talking about the secret junction. Let's do it. Let's think of it.
I've opened up a can of worms. Okay, I'll add that on to the next thing.
It also gives us an opportunity to connect the signage and the map visually.
Yeah.
Because if the signage is not going to have the logo on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the signs that are indicative of the Mass Cultural District or Council
Mhm.
do not have to be the same as whatever you come up with for the West Concord Junction.
So we can use both.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if we want everything to be unified, and if we are starting from scratch,
Mhm.
we have an opportunity.
And I think we are. I think it's really good. And Ed has the background that we needed, and we didn't have before in the group. And I think that I can go, I'll do that in the next 2 days. I'll get to Billy and I'll just get his screen and I'll have him send me the stuff.
Great.
Okay, so we can all get it together and get it all together, get the logo, figure out what the logo really is, figure out the junction.
I really love the idea of that kind of silhouette of the village landmarks. I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like.
Me too.
Did you guys see, I could have sworn that they were brought to one of our, maybe some of you weren't at it. Because I could have sworn we had them at the meeting.
I remember attending a meeting
One of them
when,
was
yeah,
brought.
someone was showing, they were like
Yeah.
maybe maroon
Yeah.
colored or like
Okay,
light brown or
Wait a minute,
something.
are you
Yeah.
talking about the one that there's a railroad sign in the middle and there's sort of some trees and
Yes, it's
That
very
was
abstract
awful.
looking.
It looked like that looked like the cover of a murder mystery from a lonely town in the West or something. I thought, okay, sorry again. Maybe I'm
No,
ignorant.
they're
I thought we
not
threw that
done.
one out.
No, so what they did, and then we got to move on. What
Okay.
we did was they took the look and the kind of the template look from the Mass Cultural Council and applied it to West Concord. So there are these kind of abstract horizon looks of things. And so they took West Concord and did that using their color palettes and all of that. Is that right, Marcia?
Yes, and then we found out that they were using the wrong color palette. So the colors are actually different that the Mass Cultural Council ended up with. So, once Anne gets the things, then we can talk about it further and you might really
I'll do
like
that.
it or you might
I'll do
just
it.
say, no way.
I'll do it. It's really good we're
great.
having this and getting everything out there and everything out, pulling everything out of the closet, getting it all out there.
Okay, great. Next, update on the West Concord Junction design guidelines.
Hi, so I will share my screen and we can go through these design guidelines. I would encourage everyone to look at them on your own. And I think I sent them out to pretty much everyone on the committee earlier today, and I realized it was not enough chance to take a look at them before this meeting, but I can kind of summarize what's in there, and it might also help surface some good ideas as we have this branding discussion, like in the next couple of meetings. But the goal, let me see if I can share my screen. The goal of these guidelines actually is to assist WCAC with better communicating with developers in terms of what kind of development or renovation we want in the built environment in West Concord Junction, and also the priorities we have for open space and pedestrian circulation and prioritization of people walking and biking in the district as opposed to always having to drive around. So I'm going to just kind of go through these pages. The last 5 or so are almost entirely pictures, but the first 5 have some like a combination of text and pictures. So this document starts off with our vision statement, and essentially what we're trying to do is weave in these ideas of Concord being West Concord Junction being a very welcoming place, a place where things are made and that art is prioritized, and that it's best to be out on foot or on your bike enjoying the surroundings as opposed to just driving past and not engaging with our town. So essentially, this kind of outlines the footprint of what West Concord Junction is. I have reached out to Elizabeth Hughes to try to help with a better rendering of what geography is included in West Concord Junction. So this map will get substituted once I get something new. So we kind of explain what West Concord Junction is like. And, Anne and also the other WCAC members have been really involved in helping define aspirationally and realistically what West Concord Junction is and how we want it to remain. We really got behind this statement here of it's a town center that's functional, not just decorative. So we're highlighting the fact that you can go do your everyday errands essentially in West Concord Junction, and have a pleasant, easy time of doing that. It's not just, you know, a tourist trap or something like that. We do highlight Harvey Wheeler here, and we've got the what used to be brand symbol for West Concord Junction, but this certainly can be substituted with something else that we all agree on. We make the point about, you know, the buildings all being lined up in a way that allows people to proceed down the sidewalk in a safe and enjoyable way, and that all the buildings for the most part have big windows you can see in and be tempted to go inside and purchase something that you see through the windows. We have a bit of a timeline here that kind of outlines the West Concord Village Master Plan on through basically the designation of it becoming a cultural district, and then talking about the murals that are getting put up all through the junction, and also the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail getting set up within West Concord, then also it soon to be getting expanded so that it connects up with other towns in the area. We do draw some inspiration from our past in this document. So we're showing, you know, what West Concord Junction used to look like to give some sense of our historical grounding. And then kind of comparing, like, how are we using these same buildings now? So for instance, the depot here, you know, it's now the Club Car Cafe, and it is, you know, there's a modern business operating there. There are not train tickets being sold out of there, and people aren't pulling up in their horse and buggy, but this building still exists, and it's an important part of our historic story. We have some vision statement principles, which I invite you to read at your leisure. These were actually lifted from the planning that's going on for Thoreau Depot, which is over in Concord Center area. They're going through a planning exercise there, and it's very analogous to, you know, how we would want to talk about the junction, I think. So pedestrian-focused neighborhood, walkable, traffic calming, environmental sustainability goals. All these things are also being recommended to the Thoreau Depot project as it goes in front of the planning board. And then we tell people how they should use this document. It's important to note that this document is kind of a preamble to a much longer, like 75-page document that is the West Concord Design Guidelines. I think Marcia's going to help us kind of revisit and rewrite that whole thing. So this preamble document you're looking at right now eventually will get subsumed into a larger effort that hopefully consultants will assist with. But this is kind of to get us by until such time as something like that can be written. And then here are Anne's tips for the front door guidelines for the Junction Cultural District that are super helpful and just like a quick hit for developers in terms of what they should be focusing on. I did include this Wicked Local article that talks about when we were awarded the Cultural District designation, because I think it was, Anne circulated it today on email, and I thought it was very apropos. So I was able to find a digital copy of it and I included it. It does have some history here, and you can see we're talking about the junction. You know, the first train of the Boston Main Line went through West Concord, and then there was another track that went in Framingham to Lowell, also passing through West Concord. So I think that's what caused the naming of the town as Concord Junction.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting. It wasn't West Concord Junction, it was Concord Junction.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
I have an old version of this on a Google Docs. I haven't seen this new one. Is it a PDF or can you send it around?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I thought I circulated it earlier today, but I will definitely send it out to the group that's on this call here today.
I think I must not have gotten that, although I'll check my spam folder.
It was in, she sent it to the Google group.
Okay.
Well, I actually think I may have sent it to you all as individuals and sent her article to the Google group, but I'm not
Oh,
sure
right.
that I
Yep.
picked up on
Yep.
that and did it. If that's the best way for me to circulate something with you all, then I can do that. Or no, Marcia's
Yeah, I
shaking her
don't
head.
have,
No.
my most recent message from you
Oh,
is with Ed's contact information after our last meeting. So
Okay. So yeah, let me send this over to you. I'm
that'd be great. Thank you.
going to make sure everyone has it.
And I'll
Uh,
attend it to the minutes. Is that
Oh, great.
appropriate?
Yep. Yeah. And then you can review these pictures again at your leisure, but we kind of noted what we liked about these different buildings in the district, in the junction, I should say. So this kind of sets out for future developers what we consider to be, great design and what we'd like to see more of in the junction. There are some buildings that are omitted, and if there are any that you think belong in here that we haven't included, I'm certainly happy to throw them in. And we have each one of these pages kind of, it has its own theme, like this one is talking about our outdoor murals, and then the other ones we're talking about the importance of art. Here's a feature on the historic churches that have gotten repurposed for the performing arts. And then we're just showing Harvey Wheeler and the library. Harvey Wheeler is a pretty old building, I think built in 1918. The Fowler Library, I think it was built maybe in the 1930s. I can't remember. Yeah, 1930. And so these are both, mainstays of the junction, and we want to make sure that they're given proper respect in, builders using them as models if they need to. So yeah, so that's what this document is. And again, like the next steps for it would be you can share feedback on it with me. I will be taking it to our WCAC meeting tomorrow and getting feedback from our WCAC members. We have spent a good amount of time, like wordsmithing this and like going through, sentence by sentence, and people have given me detailed feedback on it. So I think that most people are happy with where it's at right now on our committee, but I'd love to get your feedback because we've made a big effort to weave in the cultural piece here so that any developer gets a sense that this isn't just, a bunch of buildings that people don't care about, or that this is an abandoned town center. I mean, this is a place that we care very much about, and we're trying to give them a sense of that personality when they present us with designs.
I think
that it's terrific. And
Oh,
I
great.
thought we had seen an earlier draft of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It makes me right proud to be a member of West Concord Junction. Yeah.
That means a lot, Margot. Thank you.
I think you really wove it together well, and I think working with your committee really worked well, and I think it's great. And I think it's going to be a great basis for the planning group that ends up revising it.
Yep.
They make this for people-centric, safe, pedestrian-centric visiting, getting people out of cars. That's what we're about.
Yeah.
That's what it's perfect. And I think it's just, I think actually we could also forward this. I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but to the cultural, the state cultural council, to just show this is what we did because of you making us a cultural district. Look what we did. This couldn't have happened if we weren't a CD.
Great.
Yep. So excellent. So I'll make sure that everyone has it. And I think after tomorrow, when I share it with WCAC, and then after I get you all's input, we do need to take it to the planning board and, probably pre-share it with them and then talk through some of what's in here with them. And I think they probably need to bless it before it can become official, I believe, right? Is that correct, Marcia? Yeah, Marcia's nodding. Okay.
It'd be great if we could get it done by September or something.
Yeah, hopefully before then.
Yeah, terrific.
Awesome.
Great. The last thing I have on our agenda for this evening is the status of our renewal of the Junction Cultural District. And I think Marcia was gonna.
sorry about that. The select board did vote to send a letter to the Cultural Council, and expressing our support. And then we have, I'll be gathering information and getting that submitted. Sorry, I don't have the date. But it's due, this spring, and then they go through it all, and then they renew it in September or August. So
Mhm.
I'll get that information together, and I may need to come back to you and get some more input or some ideas. But I think given the reports that I've prepared over the last 5 years and the work that you're doing now, and this has really come a long way. And I'm really, really proud of being able to work with all of you. This is really super, very exciting. So
Well, thank you, Marcia, for shepherding us along.
I'm looking forward to getting that all together, and hopefully I'll have a draft ready for your next meeting.
Sounds awesome. Thank you, Marcia, for all your support and your tireless participation in all these meetings.
Yeah. I feel like Marcia is like a ruler, tapping us on the knuckles,
I have one item that I don't know if I need, I want to give you a heads up. You may be aware that 13B Commonwealth Ave went through a very long, laborious process of coming back with ideas for how to redevelop their site.
Does everyone know what 13B is?
13B being the front property of Brookside Square.
Mhm.
And that at the 11th hour, their architect had an accident and was killed.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
I'm not. And so Patrick has been working with a new architect who looked at the building that had been approved with new eyes and has come up with a design that I think is an improvement over what was initially approved. So he and the architect will be coming back to both the West Concord Junction Cultural District and the West Concord Advisory Committee, possibly in May, as early as May, possibly in June, but they've refined and redesigned, but with many of the themes that were originally approved. And so I think you will be very happy with where the direction that it's taking. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So something to be expected, to look forward to.
Is this the property that's where the gas station is?
No, it's that empty lot right now where there's a parking area. You know, the sign that has the road that goes to Brookside in the back? There's an empty lot to the left as you're facing Brookside,
Okay. Yeah.
right on Commonwealth Ave.
It has the big sign for Orange Theory and all those kinds of.
Right.
It'd be the building next to Reasons to be Cheerful right now.
Okay. I guess I didn't realize that was Commonwealth Avenue, but okay.
Yeah, the name changes.
So
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a shame about their.
very sad situation. Yes.
Yeah.
But,
That's shocking. Yeah.
I think having a new set of eyes look at it is an improvement, to be
Mhm.
honest. So
Yeah.
just be aware.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, folks, we have public comment here. Jennifer, do you have any public comment for us? You're muted.
You're muted, Jen.
Sorry, and I keep getting internet unstable messages. I know it was very interesting. I've never participated in a town committee, so I feel like I've learned a lot and admire what you all are doing. And I too, when I saw that plan, I was like, I love West Concord.
Yeah.
That was really awesome. So yeah, no, it's very interesting.
Okay, well, we won't put you on the spot about whether or not you want to join us, right?
Yeah, I don't know really, you would have to, it would be good to hear what you need and what you need in a new member. So I'm not sure what value I would add. Of course, my experience is in music, but I think I would need to hear just more about what would be good to add to this group, already a great group.
Oh, thanks. Well, I can get in touch with you. We can go for a walk or something and talk
Great.
about it. But you've seen the wide scope of the different things that our committee works on each month.
Yeah. it's very interesting.
Did someone drop the welcome gift at her back porch? Did anyone take care of that? Her thank you, no? Okay, sorry. All right, well, our next meeting, I think, is on May 4th. Is the,
Star Wars Day.
What is it?
It's Star Wars Day.
Oh, May the 4th be with you.
Oh.
Sorry.
So that's when it will be. And if Jennifer, if you're interested, you decide that you do want to join us, then you would fill out the green card at the town office, or you do it online. And then we put your name in for nomination with the select board so that they can nominate you, vote on you, and you get sworn in. It's all very
Oh, wow.
officious. And yes. And Terry, how long does this normally take? Ed was able to get himself on our committee within a month, right?
The key to it is going on to the thing and filling it all out, and then I guess having you guys tell them that I needed to get on.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's all I did.
This is a good time of year. We seem to be moving fast now, but if you wait until June, we'll have a big backlog of all the committees turning over and things will bog down again.
Mhm.
I hope you're interested, Jennifer, and if you have any questions, ask Kate or Marcia or myself or anybody. And
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right,
Yeah,
everybody.
I'll just make a plug. I think if there's anything that West Concord could use more of, it's more music, like
Ah,
actively. So if you want to bring that, I'll nominate you that way.
all right, great.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a, Anne, did you have something?
No, great meeting.
Oh, thank you. So we are officially adjourned, everyone. Have a
Okay.
great
Good
week.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.